Hello and welcome to Stormont, where it is bright but definitely not very sunny at the minute, and as you can see from behind me it is very windy at the minute, but hopefully the wind will die down and we'll be able to enjoy the rest of the afternoon. We are here live for the European Pipe Band Championships, which have been running since 10 o'clock this morning, and we are streaming the Grade 1 Championships from the Grade 1 from the Grade 1 arena below me here. And with me live today, first of all, I have George Usher, the President of the RSPBA branch, and Arlene Foster, Minister for Culture and Tourism, and I'm going to speak to both of them in a minute. I'd like to just say that today's programme is coming to you courtesy of ljhstv, and it is jointly sponsored by Tourism Ireland and the Ulster Scots Agency. George, this is the third year that Belfast has hosted these championships, so obviously they'll not be here next year, but I mean it has been a real coup for Northern Ireland in general, having a championship such as this for the last 3 years.
This has been a fabulous championship. Obviously when you look around the grounds here today, I don't think there's any other spot that we go to with a major championship that compares like this. I really feel sorry that we're not going to be here for another 3 years, but that's life, and we have to live with that. The championship here really has been very well supported. I have to say that through Belfast City Council and the support they've given us to put on this championship, and the bands especially, and I'm talking now about the bands from Scotland, because they don't get much chance to travel and they really love to come over here for the weekend, and I can understand that feeling, because we have got that for years when we travelled as a band together to Scotland, and going together as a band for that weekend, and the fellowship that you enjoy together, and the times that you enjoy, really is character building within the band, and it helps bring the whole band together. So I can understand how disappointed even the Scots are, maybe more so than us, that this championship's not going to be here for the next 3 years.
Okay. And what about Minister Foster? From a culture and tourism point of view, obviously it has been great for Northern Ireland to have this as a tourism event, and I mean you can see from the crowds that are here today, it may be the third year, but it's certainly just as good this year as other years. So how are we going to encourage other organisations to host international events such as this and bring them to Northern Ireland?
Well, this has been a tremendous success for us in Belfast, and as George has said, we've had a lot of support from the City Council, which we're delighted with. But I think you see people from all over Northern Ireland come to this event. I know that from speaking to people personally yesterday, just that they were coming up to Stormont today. It has become an event in the calendar towards the end of July each year, and I think they will be disappointed it's not coming back next year. However, I think that gives us the appetite then to bid in 3 years' time again to bring it back to Northern Ireland, because it has been a tremendous experience. Speaking to people, tourists who come here, and we have 50% of our bands are from outside the island of Ireland, and I think that's important to remember, because they bring their family and friends over to visit Belfast, and otherwise they wouldn't be in Belfast. So I just hope to see more people coming to enjoy what is a marvellous event, what is a real musical event, and indeed wider culture. With some Scottish dancers here as well, and it's great to see them enjoying themselves as well.
Of course, we don't just have the pipe bands as a tourist event. I mean, if people come from here, even if they're here for the event specifically, there's other things in Belfast to see and in Northern Ireland, aren't there?
Oh yes, the tourism product in Belfast and right across Northern Ireland has been growing over this past 3 years, and of course we have now in the city of Belfast our beautiful Titanic building, which is a must-see destination for any visitor to Northern Ireland, and then right across Northern Ireland, New Giant's Causeway Visitor Centre, and all of the other events and festivals that we have right across the summer. So the product's very much there. We just need to encourage people now to come and visit us, and when we have events like this in Belfast, it really draws people in who otherwise wouldn't be interested in coming to Northern Ireland.
I think sometimes the weather does play a big part, and obviously we do wish from a female's point of view that our hair would sit and it wasn't quite so windy. George, you don't seem to have that problem today.
He has his hat on.
But the hat definitely helps. Maybe that's what we should have done. We should have worn a hat. But I mean, look at the atmosphere. What do you think people are expecting from a day such as this?
Well, there are the real purists here who are here for the piping and the competition in the bands. There are people who just come to enjoy the day and enjoy the spectacle, the sounds, the colour of it all. But we're talking now just as the Grade 1 competition is about to start, and these are the top musicians in this art in the world. And it's really hard to get across maybe the amount of work that goes into this, because these bands, the players in these bands, practice almost every night of the week. They have to get to that standard and to maintain that standard. They get together. Most of the bands would practice 2 nights a week as a band all year round, and it's all aimed at 3 or 4 Saturdays in the year, such as today. So it's a very serious matter for them, and as Bill Shankly once said about the football at Liverpool, it wasn't a matter of life and death, it was much more important than that, and it is that way to some of these guys. It's a way of life.
I mean, what else can we say really to encourage other organisations? It's just not just the Pipe Band Association, but there will be other people in Northern Ireland that would be in a position to host international events. What can we say to get the message out there that Northern Ireland is well capable of hosting events such as this?
Well, I think it makes me think of the Irish Open, and a lot of people looked at that and thought, well, would we be able to cope with the logistics, with the transport, with the number of people that we expected to come? And in fact, we were able to cope and indeed put on a brilliant show with over 30,000 people at the event on the last day. So I think other organisations should look to Northern Ireland as a place that can organise big events, but more than that, can do it well and give a marvellous welcome to people that come here to the country. And I think if you speak to anybody from the European Pipe Band competition, those people who have travelled here for this past 3 years, they will certainly say they've had a great time in Northern Ireland.
Okay, so really it is about getting the message out there that Northern Ireland is on the map, and please come and see us.
Absolutely, and when they do come, I know they'll want to come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you very much, both Minister Foster and George Usher, President. Thank you very much. I look forward to the Grade 1 starting shortly at 2:20. Thank you very much. Well, the drum majors also play an important part of these competitions. It's not just about the bands, although of course they are the important part, but the drum majors, they bring an international flavour sometimes to the competition as well. And last week I caught up with one such international drum major. He is a local man, Brian Wilson, but he travels abroad both to teach and to compete, and I'll just show you a short clip now of what he had to say last week. Brian Wilson, you're 2 world titles and you have 12 major championships under your belt as well, and in February 2012 you also got another major achievement. What was that?
I got an MBE recognition for my voluntary services to music in Northern Ireland, and that was presented in February by Prince Charles.
Were you surprised whenever you got that?
I was shocked, I must admit, because it actually was the Queen's birthday honours in 2011, but it was 2012 before I received it, so yes, it was a big shock. Yep.
You compete in Northern Ireland and Great Britain. You're also an international competitor.
I am. About 10 years ago I started to travel a little bit, so I have a lot of friends in New Zealand, Australia, South Africa and America, so I've done that competition season for about 10 to 12 years now. I've had some success down under and I've had some disappointments, but I've had those at home as well. But there's a great camaraderie around the world with pipe bands and drum majors, where you can rock up anywhere in the world and say you belong to a pipe band, and there's a whole community where you can have friends to stay with, friends to party with, and it's a great item to be in. I have a lot of fun.
What drives you? What makes you want to still be in the competition?
Well, if you'd asked me that last year, I'd have said no. I'm not enjoying it anymore. I'm 23 years competing, and I've just lost my nerve a little bit. But this year in particular, I'm back to where I was when I won my first world title. I have a great passion for drum majoring. I love what I do. I can't say I love competition. Competition's only a small part of what I do, but getting a few successes under your belt this year has given me a real lift. I just love doing it. It's a great pastime.
You teach as well?
I do teach. I have at the minute about 20 students from all different sorts of drum majoring backgrounds, from accordion bands, silver bands, and then the pipe band competition. So it takes up a lot of my time as well, and it's great that I can pass on what I have done over the years to these young competitors or young people out in front of bands.
Now we have Peter down at the ringside, and he's going to speak to a few people down there.
We're now ringside with the Chief Executive of the RSPBA, Ian Embleton. So Ian, what's your role as Chief Executive?
Well, it's my job to coordinate the event. We're bringing somewhere in the region of 70 officials from Scotland, and today we've got over 120 bands here in Belfast and Stormont. It's a fantastic event, and it's one of our biggest major championships in the year.
So it's a big operation. What do you think of Belfast and Stormont as a host venue?
I don't think we could have had a better playing surface anywhere in the UK. We have been here now, this is our third year, and unfortunately it's the last of a 3-year deal, but we're looking forward to coming back sometime in the future when hopefully we can negotiate a further deal with Belfast City Council, because the Stormont has been very popular among the bands and really everybody's thoroughly enjoying it.
Brendan, thank you very much for talking to us.
Now, people are here today competing. There's Highland dancing going on, there's drum major competitions going on, and there are obviously pipe band competitions going on. And people are competing not just for titles but also for the silverware. And last week I caught up with the man who has the responsible job, and a very hard job, I would say. I wouldn't like to be in his shoes really. And he has to take care of all the silverware for Northern Ireland branch. So Roy McCulloch, trophy officer, here's what he had to say about his job. Roy McCulloch, you're a trophy officer and you're a champion in your own right, because it's really you that works tirelessly behind the scenes to keep all these trophies safe and clean and presentable and making sure that everybody gets the right trophy on the day. Isn't that correct?
That's correct. My job is at the end, or the start of the season, is to get all the trophies back from the winners from the previous year. So they come in the first week in May, I check them out. If there's any trophies missing, then it's my job to chase after the bands, and that can take a week or take 2 or 3 months to get the trophies back. So when I get them all back, then I have to sort them out into various competitions, then sort them out within the 6 grades within each competition, and 4 grades of drum majors. So then near the competition I get them all out, I clean them all, put them into separate containers and bring them on the day of the competition to start it all over again.
And do you do this for every competition?
Every branch competition. There are 4 sections and they have trophy officers of their own, but apart from that I do all the competitions. So I've probably about, at the start of each year, about 350, 400 trophies in my garage.
And do you have to clean them yourself?
I do. Some of them come back clean, some of them need a bit of work, but it's my responsibility. You know, well, it's a job, it's a task I undertook, and I enjoy doing it. I work by myself doing it, and nobody to argue with.
So how do you feel then on the day of a competition when you see your trophies being handed out to someone?
Well, I'm pleased. What pleases me more is people coming up and looking at the trophies before the competition. People who've come up and said, I presented this trophy in memory of my mother or my father 20 odd years ago, and to show it to them again, that means a lot to me as well, you know, that these trophies are still being looked after year after year. And sometimes they get damaged, sometimes they have to be replaced, sometimes have to be repaired, but it's nice to be able to show. I mean, there's one gentleman here today who presented a trophy on behalf of his parents 24 years ago, and I was able to pick it out and show it to him, and it brought tears to his eyes, you know. So
would that be the oldest trophy that you have today?
Today probably would be the oldest trophy we have in the branch is a drumming trophy for the All-Ireland Championships, which was first donated in 1947. So that's the oldest one I'm aware of, you know, that's still doing the rounds in the competitions, you know. But the oldest one today would probably be 20, 30 years old, you know.
And do you still have new trophies presented then from time to time?
Yes, year to year we have trophies presented in memories of loved ones, you know, and so we replace them sometimes with trophies of, maybe if they've been presented by the branch, we can withdraw them, but we'd like to keep out the memorial ones, you know, so we get it every year. We haven't so many this season, but we do get maybe half a dozen per year, you know. So.
Have you ever lost a trophy?
Personally, no. And it gives me great credit whenever a band comes to me and says, oh, we've handed that in. And I says, well, I haven't got it. And then all of a sudden, after weeks of chasing after him, it turns up, you know, but I haven't personally lost a trophy yet.
Okay, thanks very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Now with me for this afternoon, for the rest of the afternoon, I have 2 adjudicators who are actually being commentators today, and that's Alan Ronaldson and George Wilson. Gentlemen, you're very welcome. And they're just welcoming the main judges of Grade 1 down in the arena at the minute. And gentlemen, what can we say about the judges that we have today? We have Kenneth Eller, Malcolm Mackenzie, Winston Pollock, And Paul Turner.
That's right, Marlene. Ken Ehlers from Canada. He's spent most of his life in Canada, but very, very well respected figure across there, leader of many top bands across in Canada. And we're delighted to have Ken, of course, here most years now, since he has retired from active playing. And it's nice to bring a fresh face, if you like, although the bands now are getting used to seeing him. Malcolm McKenzie is doing ensemble today. Malcolm's from Glasgow. And Malcolm also was pipe major of the many different bands, but latterly I think it was the Red Hag. Was that who you finished up with, George?
Yeah. Okay, hold on. The first band is just coming up to the line here.
Paul Turner.
First band is just coming up to the line here, so we'll talk about him in a wee minute.
Yep.
So the first up today is Lothian and Borders Police. Is that correct?
Lothian Borders Police are actually from Edinburgh, based in Edinburgh, and it will be interesting to hear how they perform today, simply because they've had a succession of pipe majors over the last few years, and had some varying fortunes. So it'll be interesting to hear how they perform today, and they're just coming up to the line now to start off.
Well, George, what do you think about that?
Well, the march is certainly a new march to my ear. I've never heard it before, and I think they played it quite well. And but what most intrigued me was the strathspey and the drive from the drum section. I thought was very, very good. It gave a great lift and a nice strong reel to finish with. It's a pity the wind is up there a bit because
Yeah, it's a bit hard to hear.
to and fro, and
Yes.
it makes it a little bit difficult to hear everything.
Yeah. Does that make it hard for the adjudicators down in the ring as well? Will it
Well,
affect them the same way?
No, I think they're close
No?
enough to
Okay.
hear what's happening.
Yeah, it's just hard. It's even hard for me to hear you boys today as well. It's kind of hard with all this wind, but maybe it'll die down a wee bit for us. I think that you said that was a new march. So that's one of the oldest bands. I know that in the pipe banding world,
That's
but
right.
yet they're obviously not averse to playing new music.
So it's
Yeah.
Alan was just saying to me, have you heard
Yeah.
this before?
So neither of you had heard that
No,
before, no?
no,
Okay,
no, not at
right, very good. And it was a good opener then? Yeah. Okay. What are the adjudicators looking for today?
Just before we go on to that, it's interesting to note that with the Lothian and Borders Police, there are 8 regional police forces in Scotland. Well, the plan is next year to amalgamate them all into one. So we rather fear for the future of these individual pipe bands.
Yeah.
Nobody knows yet what's going to happen, but it really will be a crying shame to the music world, really, if all these bands were to disappear. It may be that they will have one band for the whole of Scotland, but who knows?
Yeah.
But what are the judges looking for? There's all sorts of different things. Obviously, the introduction is the most important part. Are they all together, coming up to the line? Is the introduction from the pipers straight onto the E on the chanter? Are the drum rolls together? I actually noticed it was a little clumsy from Lothian and Borders Police, especially in the first 3 bass roll. They just wasn't quite together, but it settled down nicely. And as George has said, they were the driving force there, and certainly the pipers were responding to that. Obviously, we can go on there into the integration between the 2 corps, the pipers and the drummers, and also within the drum corps, bass and tenor, very, very important. Bass drummer is one of the most important men in the band. He can make or break a performance, and also we're looking at how the band's overall sound is, and as George rightly says, it's windy here, it's difficult to determine, but the judges down there, they can hear it all. They're round the circle and they can hear everything that's going on.
Okay, that's good. Well, next up we're going to have Rivera, and that's the first of our local bands today, local from Ballygowan, and they haven't been in Grade 1 all that long, sure they haven't?
Well, this is our first year back up in Grade 1.
Okay.
And I think they've been up and down over the last sort of 10 years.
Okay, they've just
they've been up in
fluctuated.
Grade 1,
So
back
how
down
does
Grade
that
2,
work? How do you get up and how do you get back down
Well,
again?
it's consistency. You stay up, and if you're not so consistent, then it's like a football league where.
Okay. So like you can
either
get
bottom
relegated
one
then
or-
at the end of a
and then
season?
there'll be,
Okay.
other bands would come up in their place.
Okay.
But I haven't heard Rivera for about over a year now. They're always been a good steady band, and have always had quite a nice tone. So and I hope they do well today.
Yeah. Okay. And I think we have an interview with the mayor going on down at the ringside, so over to Peter.
We're now here ringside with the Lord Mayor of Belfast. And so what's the overall experience for Belfast for having this event here?
It's a super event. It's one that we've welcomed now for 3 years running in Belfast, and you can see just how many thousands will come out for the European Pipe Band Championships. I think there's around 20,000 people here today with 121 bands, and it really does just bring together all that local talent that we have with pipe bands, but also from right across Europe. So we think it's great for Belfast, and we'd look forward to having it back again someday.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for talking to us. Okay.
Now that was Peter speaking to the Lord Mayor of Belfast, who is also the chieftain for today, and he will be watching the march past later on after 5 o'clock today. So as we said, we have Rivera Band coming up next, and I think they should be getting ready to come up to the line shortly. If we would just talk about the whole pipe band scene in Northern Ireland, and I mean there's a great calibre of competitor that we have here really. I mean they're as good as the rest of the world really, aren't they?
Absolutely, and indeed your current world champions for the last few years now is Field Marshal Montgomery. They were very, very consistent. I think they won every championship last year. They've certainly won the first 2 championships this year, and we'll see how they fare today. But yes, the quality really of pipe bands in Northern Ireland has actually risen quite highly. Going slightly backwards, I think, in some of the lower grades at the moment, but that just purely depends on the changeover of players coming and going from one band to another, and that's something which is out with your control. But generally speaking, right through the grades, and indeed at the major championships, which are all held in Scotland apart from the European here in Belfast, a lot of the Irish bands take the top prizes in each of the grades, and that's good to see that. I'm quite proud.
How do you feel about that as a Scotsman?
Well, now here's an interesting thing. I'm from Edinburgh, but I am actually resident in Bangor in County Down, and I've been here for the last 4 years.
You're cheating.
So I'm an immigrant, but not an illegal immigrant, and they haven't deported me yet, so I must be okay.
Good. You're doing okay. You're flying under the radar anyway.
Absolutely. Keep my head down.
I think, George, I had a similar conversation with you last year, didn't I? I was fooled by the accent. You say I should have checked you out before I spoke to you. Let's see what we can see now if we have it on the screen. Rivera are just getting ready to walk up to the line, and they will be in the Grade 1 arena. It's Rivera with pipe major Samuel Connolly, and he has been their pipe major since 1987, when he was just 18 when he was appointed.
And the band have drawn the number 1 set, Lord Alexander Kennedy, Susan McLeod, McCallum Skirt.